I was raised in a Christian family. My parents knew the Lord. I was in church before I was born. And after I was born, if the doors were open, we were there. I was in Sunday school, I was in youth choir, all the things the good Christian girls are supposed to do. And I came to know Jesus when I was 7. For some reason, the pastor's statement of go into a closet stuck with me. So I went down into the closet below the basement stairs, and I knelt on that floor. And I said, Jesus, I'm a bad girl. I do things that I know don't please you. Would you come into my heart? And I remember that day as if a weight had just been lifted off my little body. And my dad came and found me. And I said, Daddy, I know Jesus. So I know I was saved that day. So I was just going through the motions of being a typical American kid on Long Island. But when I got into junior high, I was picked on. Just something awful. I was bullied. If they could make fun of it, they did. I guess because I just didn't fit in. I didn't curse. I didn't wear the high fashion clothes that the kids did because my family couldn't afford them. And I just didn't hang out with those people. It's not what I wanted to do. And in my heart, I knew that the stuff that they were doing was wrong, and I just didn't want any part of it. But because of that you still have that desire to fit in, to be the cool kid, even though I was nowhere near the cool group. But when I got out of high school, I figured, great, now I can just start a life and be cool on my own. And I started dating a guy from church, and he was the cool guy. He was good looking. He was a smooth talker. He was very, very romantic. And I fell for it hook, line, and sinker. And I started to set aside the values that I had been raised on. And lo and behold, January 1989, I was pregnant. Telling my parents was the hardest day of my life. The shock and the grief and the disappointment and the tears. I just wanted to curl up and die right then. But, you know, I'm a quote-unquote adult. I have to go to work. Life still goes on. And I started thinking, what am I going to do? Right away you think, I even thought about this leaving the doctor's office. You can have an abortion. Right there, Satan was just on top of me. Nobody else would know. Just you and me. And I went, yeah, I can do that. I've got the money now, and I live alone, so nobody would know. And people may say that God doesn't talk audibly, but I'm telling you, He talked to me out of that radio, and I heard one word, and that was no. And I didn't do it. Then I thought, well, I guess we'll just get married, because that's what you're supposed to do. But it just didn't sit right in my heart. I never had a peace about it. And I finally, in desperation, I called my mom, and I am begging through sobbing tears, Mom, just tell me what to do. Because I figured if she told me what to do, I could just do it, and I could get over it, and then life would go back to normal. But my mom was she was a very wise woman. She said, Susan, I cannot tell you what to do. You just think of the most selfless thing you could ever do for any of your children, and that's what you do. And I hung up the phone that night, and right away I knew my answer, my choice, was adoption. And 6 months later, I put my daughter into the arms of her mom and dad through a wonderful Christian adoption agency. I consider them my co-signers on God's loan to me. It wasn't easy in the human respect, but it was easy in the spiritual respect because I knew she wasn't mine. She was not my possession. She belonged to them. It was almost as if they had come to visit me in the hospital and said, oh, would you like to hold the baby? And then I gave her back to them, and it was okay. During that time, I dealt with a lot. I had contemplated suicide, yes, even though I was pregnant. I thought about it because the shame and the guilt and just beating myself up just took over so much. But again, through my mom, I sought professional, outside godly counsel, and that man saved my life. After I surrendered her for adoption, I figured, okay, well, now we go on with the rest of our life, and we'll see what God does with it. Well, actually, He led me to move to the South. I moved to Georgia in '91. Love it down here, and I started praying for a husband, but guardedly, because I figured I was damaged goods. Who would want me? But my two favorite words are "but God," But God did have someone in mind for me. And I married my husband David in March of 1995. We just celebrated 20 years. And I thought all was good. You know, we would move on, we would do life together. We decided not to have children for very many reasons. But I just wasn't living the life that I believed God had for me. But I just didn't know why. And it wasn't until I really got into intense Bible study, digging into God's Word, to know who He is. Not just this guy sitting there ready to zap me and who I was displeasing with every wrong thing that I did, but instead I learned that He is the God of mercy. He is the God of faithfulness. He is the God of redemption. He bought me back from my past, and my past did not define who I was. And in that season of learning who He is, He gave me my life verse, and that's Galatians 5:1. It is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm and do not return to the yoke of slavery. And I walk in that freedom today. I am free of my past. I am free from the guilt. I am free from the self-condemnation. And believe me, I did a good job of beating myself up for it, because I learned how to forgive myself through Christ. And I live in freedom today because my name is Susan Auten and my tab is paid.